Welcome back to this week's episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. I'm excited to sit down this week with Greg Hogan of Carrabba Agency out of Middletown, New York. If you have been involved in the IAOA Facebook group, more than likely you've seen Greg's name in there a number of times. He's an active contributor, which is really what drew me to him. And I'm looking forward to sitting down today, getting to know Greg a little bit better and learning about his agency and what he has going. So, Greg, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Brad. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Looking forward to just talking about the industry in general, hearing about your story and background. And so why don't we, as we always do, why don't you tell us about, you have quite the extensive insurance background. So I'd like to hear about that. Tell us how you got started and bring us up to today.
Well, like most, I stumbled into insurance. I was 2 years in a home office as a programmer, and then I came out onto the retail side in 1990, and worked for a big life producer. We did split dollar, key man, 6-figure life premium cases. And self-funded group medical. And I did that for half dozen or so years. And then I joined another P&C agency that's just down the street from where I am now in 97. And that's where my wife worked. And I joined them as a producer, and I spent about 18, almost 20 years there.
Wow.
I guess 20 years. And in 2015, I purchased this agency where I am, Carrabba Agency, while I was still an employee at another agency. And then we formally separated in February of 17. So there you have it. And I since purchased 2 more agencies, and we now have 2 locations.
So how long, you'd been working as a producer for a long time, and you kind of thought, you know what, I think it's time to start my own.
Yeah.
So what did that process look like? Yeah, go ahead.
It's I was initially brought in to hopefully be the succession plan to the agency I worked in. That didn't work out, but that's okay. I purchased this other agency. I just think that some people just want to be producers, and go along doing that, and some people want to be owners and create something else and create something you own. As a producer, sometimes you own your own book, and sometimes you don't. But as an owner, you definitely own your own book. I have no partners. I do have some, loans from purchasing the various agencies, but I have no partners. I have no ties to anyone. We are truly an independent agency.
Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned before we got on air that Carrabba is an agency that's been around for 80 years.
Yes.
What was that like to buy out an agency with a background like that?
It was pretty great, actually.
Okay.
The agency owner was selling. He was in his early 70s, and he came to me with full financial data and showed me the paperwork, showed me the financials, and he had already done his own pro forma for me. Basically, you can't work off someone else's pro forma. You have to build your own, right? And he had already done it. He already took out his expenses that he didn't think I was going to need, and we did various things. But it was really pretty simple. One thing I would highly recommend you not do is don't buy the agency without having all of the company buy-in that they're going to give you a contract and continue the agency contract. We got them all, but it was a little, there was 1 or 2 that it was a little more drawn out than I wanted to be, because we bought the agency and they didn't yet have the agency contract with the companies in my name. So that was a little bit of a scary time, but the process was really pretty straightforward. And I think, anyone who's purchased an agency after you do it, I should have done that 5 years, 10 years ago. So don't wait. If you're listening, just don't wait. Just do it, man.
Great advice. Do you recall if there were one or two things that when you went through that first acquisition that I wish I would have done this before, or I should have asked for this? I don't want to call them mistakes, but things that after going through it, hindsight, you probably could have corrected.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't have a lot of regrets
Wow.
about how I did
Yeah.
anything. Just really that one thing I mentioned about make sure you have the company contracts in your name, before you purchase the agency. Because that gave me a little bit of time where, the commission checks were still coming in the other agency owner's name, and he had to sign them over to me. But I didn't. It just felt very uneasy to me. But I think I got a fair deal. I got a couple employees in the process,
Yeah.
2 of whom are still with me and are extremely valuable. We've held on to a lot of the customers. We did do, and this is a hot topic. Do you send out a letter? Do you not send a letter? And in this case, we did send a letter. In fact, we sent a joint letter. And that worked out really well.
Yeah.
So, but I don't have a lot of regrets. I mean, I think you'd always like to get the price point less, but I don't think I overpaid, and the seller held the note, which was great. It was a 10-year note. I got 22 months left on it.
Okay. When I bought out AmeriGuard Agency 2011, I sent out a letter. I think that's one thing in hindsight I would not have done again.
Yes,
I feel like, to me, I sent out a letter, and that indicated to me, because we had it was a very established book, and that had our previous owner for a long time, and I think that there seemed to be a lot of loyalty there, and I think it gave him a reason to say, "Oh, it's time for me to shop now."
So that's funny, because the second agency I purchased was purely just a book of business. We didn't buy a location. We didn't keep the name. We didn't take any employees. We just bought a small book of business. And we did a joint letter on that one as well. And that worked out fine. There was a few people that left pretty, right away. Just same with the first agency purchase. A couple people left right away. But on the second agency purchased, something very strange happened. I guess it was about a year or so after we purchased that agency. The seller died at the age of 62, which was very tragic. We literally got 2 phone calls from people that said that, well, now that the old owner died, I'm going to move my business away. I kept it out of loyalty to him, even though he didn't own the agency anymore. But now I'm going to move it, which I thought was bizarre.
Yeah.
But I get it. Sometimes you send a letter, sometimes you don't. On my third purchase, we did not send a letter, but we did keep the name. Basically, we kept the location, and that agency is. I checked the numbers just yesterday. Year to date, it's up 40%.
Wow.
Yeah.
So let's stay on that now that as long as we're kind of talking about your acquisitions a little bit. Why don't you tell me about the other 2 acquisitions that you made, how you found them, what the process looked like, maybe what you learned, maybe any mistakes that were possibly made along the way.
Yep. All 3 agencies I purchased were all long-time agencies right in the city I'm in, Middletown. Middletown is about 90 minutes northwest of New York City. It's like 7,000 people, surrounded by another township all the way around of about another 26,000. So, low 50,000 in, say, a 5-mile radius. The first agency was Carrabba Francisco. We purchased them in 15. The second agency was named Archibald Taylor. They'd been a long time travelers agency, around for over 125 years. And we have a really cool traveler's photo from a President's, whatever they call it, President's Club reward trip from 1926 up to
Wow.
Canada. Big picture with 100 agents in it. And we have the typewriter that the second owner, because it was a family agency, we have a really old typewriter that we have on display in our office with the old owner's, his pic, the guy who used the typewriter, his picture above it. So, and we maintain that. But that was a long time agency. I'd heard that he was thinking of selling. I don't want to say I stalked him, but I went looking for him.
Yeah.
And I knew that he would go to the post office every day. So naturally I went to the post office every day, and, I didn't say, hey, I want to buy you. I just started talking about another agency that had recently sold. And he made the comment, well, who's buying agencies these days anyway? And I said, well, I might. And he said, that's good to know. And 3 weeks later, he came knocking on my door, and said, we need to talk. And it was like 5 months and done.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
So how did you find the value for it?
I got their production reports. My standard thing is I get production reports and financials going back like 3 years to look for trends. What's the business mix? Maybe pull a random file out of their cabinet to see what they have going on. Because both agencies I purchased, in fact, all three agencies I purchased had a lot of paper, which is normal with really old agencies.
Yeah.
And the second agency had diminished quite a bit. It was, again, a family agency, and I think that the owner just was kind of riding it out, wasn't really growing, was slowly dying. So I offered him kind of what I thought was a low offer, and he didn't flinch and said, yeah. And that was a multiple, under 2x revenue. And, we've held most of that business. So it's worked out pretty well for us. And we paid that one off in a year and a half. I got a loan on that, and I just paid it off very, very quickly.
Something to me in any acquisition is always if they have employees, how they transition over into, the new ownership. How did those with all those transactions, how did those convert over to you? Because sometimes people just aren't going to stay, and there's nothing you did. And
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with the first purchase, it came with 3 employees and a part-time bookkeeper. One of the employees left within a year and a half. 2 of the employees are still with me and are super valuable to the agency. The bookkeeper hung around. She was already, retired from another job. She was just handling our books on a part-time basis, a handful of hours a week. But she was really helpful in showing me a lot of the accounting things that I would need to know. And after about a year and a half, she said, listen, I really want to stop working. And that's when we started using the full integrated accounting package in our database. And we haven't looked back. It's been great.
Yeah.
The second purchase, we didn't take any of the employees because it was husband, wife, and 1 employee, 1 CSR that we didn't need because we already had capacity to swallow that book whole, because it wasn't that big. It was only about, I don't know, 700,000 of premium. It wasn't super big. And so we just folded that straight in, took their files, scanned all their files, and off to the races. The third purchase, we kept the office space. In fact, just completed a complete renovation of the space, which hadn't been renovated in 50 years. So everything in there is new. And that employee has stayed with us. She's bilingual, which is key for that agency. And that's been great. I mean, the third purchase, you'd asked, how did I find them? They came to me. That was on reputation alone. They came to me.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Called me up for lunch and said, we need to talk about some joint business interests. And I said, we don't have any joint business. He said, not yet. and it wasn't very long into our meeting where he said, I really want to slow down, and I want to sell. His business was three-pronged: insurance, investments, and taxes, and he wanted to sell the insurance piece. And it worked out great. And that took a little while longer because it was during COVID, and it took about a year to get done, but it worked out fine. And again, I think we got a good multiple. There was a little bit of back and forth on the multiple, but like I said, that agency is way up right now. So I think I got a good buy on that one too.
What is the makeup of your business? Are you more commercial focused, personal lines, mix?
Right now, just because of the acquisitions being mostly personal lines, we're definitely more personal lines. We're probably about 20% benefits and Medicare.
Okay.
And then the other 80% is split 2/3, 1/3 between commercial and personal, maybe even 75-25 personal commercial. So we're definitely heavy on personal lines.
Yeah.
And we're working to grow the commercial book back up.
Okay. Do you have any type of strategy to grow the commercial, or what are you doing for there?
We're just in the middle of adjusting that some. We don't, we're starting to kick around new marketing partners, and working on a couple niches. We do a lot of investment properties. We handle a fair number of contractors, which, I get very picky with those. We're just picky with what we write for commercial. I don't like mess. There's certain things I don't understand and I don't want to understand. Auto service. I don't write auto service, period.
Yeah, you don't have to specialize in every area. And
Nope.
I think that's something you just learn over time, right?
Yeah. You just learn what you like and what you don't like. And I think, you make those mistakes. You take on a customer and you write them, and it just doesn't sit right with you. And sometimes it takes you a while to figure out, where you want to play and what you want to do. Personal lines, we have two agencies, and we've kept two agencies for a specific reason, because one of them is really more, I don't like the word substandard, but it's definitely, not the preferred home auto umbrella package business that the main agency does. But it serves a niche of a largely Hispanic clientele, and it's great business. It's just different.
Yeah. How are you looking to grow? We're all looking to, grow. How are you growing on personal lines side of things?
Personal lines, we are up with almost every carrier. If anybody has seen me post in the group, as I'm sure most have, we do very well with our regional carriers. I can't say it enough. We use a lot of regional carriers in the state of New York. Some of them are New York only. One of them is maybe 12 miles from my office. And we do super well with the regional carriers. And I just checked numbers this morning. We're up with all of our regional carriers.
Wow.
Travelers, which is, Travelers and Progressive are really only two national footprint carriers. And Travelers we're down some with. I think that's owing to the fact that they've taken a higher, quicker rate increase than our other carriers.
Yeah.
And Progressive we're way up with.
What do you make of, kind of what we're starting to see? And I don't know if New York's been hit with this, a lot of these restrictions and requirements. What do you make of all that? And
this is the toughest market I've seen, and I've been on the retail P&C side since when did I go into the P&C side? 97. So this is the toughest I've seen. We're not seeing, though, the troubles that California is having, Florida's having, Louisiana's having. We're not getting, carriers pulling out of states, like we've seen in California. We've not seen the crazy year over year increases that Florida's been seeing. But we are starting to see tighter underwriting, tighter inspections on properties where they're really inspecting hard. We're seeing Progressive, for instance, getting very tough. They would used to take kind of
Everything.
anything. And now not so much. We recently had a guy leave us to go to State Farm for price, and then State Farm a month in changed his rate for some reason, and he came back. And my team tried to put him back with Progressive, and the premium was 50% higher than he had been paying. So I don't know if their algorithm penalizes people for that, but certainly everybody's getting a little bit tighter. We are starting to see increases a little more steep than they had been at the beginning of the year.
I saw an article yesterday. The insurance industry as a whole has sustained an $8 billion underwriting loss in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Which I think is what a lot of this is driven by. And from my perspective, yes, it makes our job more difficult. But what do you expect? If the companies don't take some action, this isn't going to stop. So I'm okay with it, as long as we still have some avenues to write with. I'm okay with the additional, documentation, as long as we have everything up front, and it's not like taking out a mortgage where you just supply 8 documents and then they come back and say, well, we need 3 more, 3 more things. And if we're mostly all in the same boat, I'm comfortable and confident with what we're able to do as an agency to, continue to flourish. It's just the rules change sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think we're just in that cycle.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we front end underwrite pretty heavily.
Yeah.
My team has the ability to write whom they want to write. They all know the standards that I'd like them to use. And if they don't feel comfortable writing someone for one reason or another, then okay, you don't have to check with me. Just do what you got to do. But we definitely don't write everybody. And I think that's a good strategy, particularly in this market, because we're seeing some increases that are large, but some of these customers have been with us for 10, 15, 20 or more years. Our longest tenured customer is 50 plus years.
Wow.
And they they trust us. And even though they're getting a 20% increase, once we say, listen, we've already taken and run you through the radar and looked at other companies, and you're in the best spot. And if you have the right customers, most of them are just going to stick with you. And I think that's a very good strategy. But you're right about the rates. I mean, the carriers can't get enough rate right now. The states are not allowing them to, like in New York, they have to wait months to get rates approved. So, carriers can't get enough rate for the exposure. We continue to see the claims are being crazy. And that's why we're getting tighter. They don't want the problems.
Yeah.
You said you saw the article that the P&C industry suffered I think it was $8.2 billion loss in the first quarter. You have to contrast that with the $3.4 billion profit they had last first quarter of 22. So, that's an $11.5 billion swing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think customers can somewhat understand that. I mean, I don't talk about reinsurance with customers because that will blow their minds, but we talk about rate and we talk about claims. Yeah.
A lot of this could kind of, and again, I'm forecasting, and maybe none of this happens, but a lot of this could really change a mindset on the customer side of things, because getting insurance has always just been a given. Oh, I can get it wherever I want. Someone buys a new home and they start shopping around, they call their agent and say, we can't offer it. Oh, we don't do this. I'm sorry, it's not acceptable. All of a sudden might change the mindset of going from, well, I knew I could get insurance, I hope I can find insurance somewhere. So and we try to educate our customer base as much as possible. You mentioned, having the conversation of, long-term customers. Our process is, especially for renewals, um, our customers get they're sent an email, and then we call them, and we're trying to have those conversations. No, it's definitely not 100%. Yes, the numbers are actually fairly low of the ones you actually contact. But if you can be proactive, and if they hear your voice and try to explain some of these things, absolutely it helps. It's going to help your retention. And it also shows that you're looking out for their best interest.
Right.
And I think that means something.
Brad, you use one of the words I use all the time, and that's educate. You have to educate your customer. We have every single week we have people call us looking for coverage, and they think they're looking for a better price. But then once we start talking about various line items and explain what various line items of their coverage mean, all of a sudden it's no longer about price. It's, wait a minute, my home is underinsured by 40%. We need to fix that.
Yeah.
And so once you educate them, then they understand that, you have to have the proper coverage and then work on finding the carrier that's going to give you the proper coverage for the best price. But you don't start just at price. Most of what we're moving is coming from direct writers and the online writers. We're not really moving around or taking from other independent agents, if you will,
Yeah.
policies. We're taking them from the direct writers and the online direct channels. Or I should say the captives in the direct channels. And that's where we're really, gobbling up business this year. And
I'm
it's just
actually,
because of education.
yeah, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that we're not even rewriting nearly as many as I thought we would be.
I did something different this year. And I created a spreadsheet, and it's a little bit of a manual process. And I know the automation folks this might blow their minds, but I have just a manual spreadsheet. And every time one of my people writes a piece of new business, if we get a cancellation, which is, the policy's just gone. And then if we get a rewrite, I get an email with that subject line, those three subject lines plus other policy info. And I'm tracking those three items in a special spreadsheet, because if you try to track those from your database through your AMS, well, if I move a policy from Travelers to another carrier, then Travelers has a cancel and the other carrier has new business, but in reality, it's neither, right? It's a
Correct.
rewrite. So
Right.
we're tracking that metric separately. And we are moving around a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a
Yeah.
lot. You're right.
We are too. I really thought we would be doing that a lot, but I think that speaks to being proactive, discussing what you have, what the climate of the industry is, and it's, really not different. So that's been great. Um, you have a couple different locations. How are you spending most of your time?
Most of my time is when I'm in the office is in this main office. I do go visit the other office. It's only a mile or so away. But if I'm not out with company people or with clients, I'm in the office.
Okay.
And like right now I'm down in admin, so I am doing more admin stuff than I like to, but we're gonna ride that out for a little bit, just to hopefully the climate for hiring will change a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'm out. I'll work with the bigger clients directly, with other key clients. I'm actually I have an appointment on Saturday to go do an auto inspection, not because no one else will do it, but because I want to get one-on-one with the client out of their office. I'm going to meet them at their home to do the inspection and talk about a much bigger piece of business, away from the work environment. So yeah, normally I'm in the office or out with clients.
So
Just the main office.
you're still doing a little producing and a little doing whatever you
Yeah.
have to do. When you're down a staff or when you're shorthanded, you do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, and you know what? My mindset is changing. I really
Mhm.
think I'm going to look for more of a an office admin person to do some of the stuff I do inside the office, even more than just the financial stuff, and allow me to just get out, because I'm so much better out with customers than sitting in here.
Yeah,
That's what I do best.
Yeah, then you should work to your strengths. It's smart.
Yeah,
I
I
think
love sitting with customers.
Yeah. What as an agency owner, what have some of the biggest challenges been for you?
Staffing.
Yeah.
Staffing's the biggest thing. I mean, getting and retaining quality people is a good thing. Is the hardest thing. And it's the people have to fit into your agency. They have to fit with your customers. They have to fit with other team members. They have to like the industry.
Yeah.
Some people come in and they don't like insurance. Well, if you don't like what you're doing, then you're never going to be happy here. But I think that is overall the absolute biggest challenge. We get online leads and customer call-ins. We still get walk-ins, and some good walk-in business too. It's kind of strange, but I don't know how it happens, but it works. But the real biggest thing for us is staffing, period.
Have you considered going with a remote employee at all? And I don't mean a
No.
virtual assistant, just, a licensed person in another state, not your thing.
No. No. I know they have. I know there are some organizations that have licensed people in other states or even out of the country. But our strength is in that we are a local agency. There is enough business within 50 miles of me. I don't do a lot of business out of the state. I don't need to. And I need to have local people who know the area. And
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't like the concept of someone on the western side of the country writes business on the eastern side of the country just because they can. Doesn't mean you know the laws of that state.
Correct.
And I don't know. It's not for me.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I understand. I felt the same way. And for the first time, and I'm not trying to sway your opinion. Because of, let's see, early this year, I lost one of my good staff people, and I decided to give it a try. I went through a platform called Ideal Traits hiring company, and I ran 2 ads, one local, one nationwide. Well, obviously nationwide is going to get more hits, but I got 2 locally, and I don't know what it was. It was like 57 or something like that, nationwide. And I did end up hiring somebody. It was nice to have a selection of solid candidates.
Yeah.
I hadn't had that in a long time. And I ended up hiring somebody really, really good out of Georgia. And but yeah, I certainly get my choice would be to have somebody here in the office. It's just, to me, it's better. It's just better. Communication's better. You're able to build a relationship. You're able to build a relationship with the team. Agreed. It's definitely would be my preference.
Yeah.
What do you feel like your agency needs to improve on?
We have to improve our marketing and our ability to write. We write new business, and we're actually writing more new business than we've ever written. But I want to write more, and I want to write more quality new business. And I think it goes back to the proper marketing, and then having the proper processes in place. We're not as automated as some agencies. We do some things, very well. Our finances are very strong, but I'd like to grow more. We've never been a high growth agency. And I see agents posting that they're growing 30% or, 40% a clip. That's never been us. Last year, I think we grew just under 20% this year. We've taken some hits, but we're still at about a little bit better than a 10% growth.
That's fantastic.
Despite taking a couple of big hits. So yeah, it's just really focusing on quality new business.
Yeah. Yeah. Any ideas on how you can get the quality new business?
If I had some super solid ideas, I could probably sell some of them.
Yeah.
But now we're working on a few things. I'm starting to entertain some new marketing companies, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah. Good luck. I mean, we have it took a long time. I am finally starting to see some solid success with Google Ads. And that's just from trying, and it did take about a year for those to really start to come in consistently. And we're not just seeing junk, we're seeing a lot of quality business come into it. Yeah, you're going to weed out, some of this stuff you don't want, but that's okay. We can say no. But yeah, so that's been a big help for me. We did try after many years. I gave up on any type of internet leads, tried it out. And I was happy just to get a hold of people, but we gave it a good 6 months and it just didn't, it just wasn't going anywhere. So we gave that up.
Yeah. What's interesting is the Google 3-pack thing. We rank very highly there, which is interesting to me. I can see how many calls we get. And my staff all the time, they ask, where does it come from? And most people find us just by searching on something that comes through to us. And that is where we write most business. On our other market that, again, the phrase substandard I don't like, but that's how most people would maybe identify it. That's a lot of referrals, which is interesting to me to watch that dynamic. And we've written, listen, some of the first Google ad stuff I did, 6 years ago or better, I still have some of those clients.
Yeah.
But you're right. Some of that's good, but a lot of the internet stuff is not good. The Facebook ads is a real challenge that didn't work out well for us. Not that we wouldn't try it again, because we might. But it is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. What advice would you have for a younger agency starting out in their career?
Education. I say it, you need to educate your staff, you need to educate your clients, but you yourself need to be educated. You have to really understand coverage. Read coverage forms. Take the CIC classes, understand the intricacies of the policy, even a little auto policy or homeowner policy. They're all complex legal documents. They really are. And every day we see questions of people that, frankly, if they just pulled out the policy form they're asking about, the answer is right there.
Yeah.
And I did the CIC back in 2008 or so. I did all the classes, the 5 I needed at the time. I did them in 11 months. And those were some of the best discussions, when you're sitting in the classroom and you're getting these instructors talking, but then you're getting these other seasoned pros. I was, still pretty young in the business then. You're getting these seasoned pros talking about details of the GL policy and the ins and outs of various things. There's no substitute for that. Absolutely none.
Agreed.
And I think it's lost. I think a lot of agencies are just focused on just write a lot of policies, but they don't understand what they're writing. They don't understand the details of the policies and why certain things matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I think maybe that's how oftentimes a lot of people are sold when they come in. We're sold as a business opportunity. You can earn this residual income. And there's not as much focused on being the professional, because what we do has consequences.
Right. 100% it does. It's even a little homeowner policy can pay $1 million claim. We've paid them.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, the proper limits or a proper umbrella in place, or if you don't have water backup coverage or anything could be a problem in the homeowner policy, in the auto policy. And it's not just a number. You need to understand the coverage.
Yeah. Agreed. Last questions for you before I let you go for the day. Tell me about some mistakes that you've made as an owner along the way.
Oof. Bad hiring. I think we've all done that.
Yeah.
Bad advertising, right? We all get the solicitations for the golf scorecards, the golf magazines, the various, advertising this magazine, the best of, and we'll make you the best insurance agent in the Hudson Valley. I mean, literally, you pick up one of our local magazines and they have the best of. No, it's just an ad. It's an ad. And
yeah.
It's 3,000 years ago. It was 3,000. I don't know what it costs now, but bad hiring, bad advertising, wasted money, shiny object syndrome of buying another program that you don't understand, don't have time to use, don't ever use, but then also writing the wrong customers.
Yeah, big time.
That's the one that'll hurt you the most.
Big time. Tell me about some repercussions you had from a bad hire.
It disrupts your whole team. Right?
That's exactly it. The reason why I asked that question, because I had one in mind myself, and that was exactly what happened over here. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, it disrupts your whole team. We had someone in particular that we brought in that looked great, and turns out that there was other stuff we didn't know about that was not great, and they didn't last very long. And I'm still bothered by that hire because I really thought they would be great. And sometimes you get fooled.
It's easy to kick ourselves, right? That we should have known better. We should have saw the flags, but tell me a company that's at 100%,
right.
Good hire rate doesn't exist.
As an agency owner, I own everything, right? I own the decisions. If I feel my people don't know a topic good enough, I own that. Yeah. I own that responsibility for not helping them learn that or not giving them the tools to learn that. And then it's on them. Once I give them the tools or I give them, one-on-one time to teach them a certain topic, if they don't absorb it, then it's kind of on them. Yeah. But, everything stops with me, and I'm never going to be out at a customer and blame one of my people for something wrong in a policy or for something. I don't do that. Yeah. You cannot do that. And we don't do it. And we don't embarrass our team, publicly, but we'll bring them in and we'll sit down and we'll talk with them and say, here's how you could have done it differently. Here's what we think was wrong. So
you mentioned advice you'd have, which was educating yourself. And that is something for me as an owner that really kind of changed the course of how I handled so many things and really improved both as a person and as a business owner. I read the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and that really changed how I saw things as an owner, that everything that happens here in the office is your fault. And I've really bought into that. And that's changed the way I look at it, is that, well, she doesn't know because I didn't train her.
Yep.
And if I didn't tell her if I didn't make clear what our operating procedures are or our agency standards, that's on me.
Yeah,
I agree.
We have written standards for that reason.
Yeah, we do too. But I didn't always. I mean, so
nope.
Yeah. So that's a good one, and I'd recommend that one to anybody. Extreme Ownership. Anybody for a business owner. It's one of the best books I've read.
I've never read it. Probably should, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a great one. Greg, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you very much for your time. I told you it'd be an easy discussion. This was great. I appreciate sharing everything. and taking the time with me today. Everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week.